Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar this morning from CREF, and thank you to State Farm for joining us on this. Just a few housekeeping rules before we get started. I will keep everyone on mute through the duration just to avoid background noise. However, we do encourage Q&As and chat with questions, so please include those in the chat or Q&A feature throughout. We encourage you to keep those going throughout so you don't forget the question by the end. We might not be able to address it right away, but at least you can get your thoughts down. Please do that. This will be recorded as well because I know there are some instructors with different classes and some instructors in schools not able to attend the live, but we do offer this as an option that you can view after the fact. And I will go ahead and when this is uploaded to the instructor portal, I will get that out to the instructors so they can be able to share that with their students. I will be in the background monitoring on behalf of CREF, but I will be turning it over to the State Farm team to facilitate and do introductions. So with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Kate and her team. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you for having us here today. We welcome the students and instructors to our webinar today. And during this panel discussion, you're going to hear from State Farm employees about their experience in the collision repair industry, how it led them to working at State Farm, and what they do here. One of our panelists is also an HR&D recruiter who will provide some insights into State Farm careers. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Kate Beadle. I'm a corporate responsibility analyst at State Farm. I help coordinate the grant funding to CREF for benchmark grants. I'm going to be your facilitator today. And joining me is my colleague, Christy Carter. She's going to be helping out with some of the logistics in the background. But I want to first start by introducing you to our panelists. So joining me today are auto estimatics appraisers Morgan Wolf and Thomas Andrews, estimatics team manager Josh Murphy, and talent acquisition specialist David Friedland. Thank you so much for joining us today, panelists. We are going to have some pre-scripted questions. However, if you are joining us live, and you have questions for the group, you can put those in the chat, as Melissa said, and we'll take a look at those near the end of the session. So welcome, and thank you again for being here today. My first question is for Thomas, Morgan, and Josh. Can each of you briefly describe your current role at State Farm and what sparked your interest in the field of collision repair and appraisals?
I'll go first. My current role with State Farm is I am a select service reviewer, and what that is basically when a person who has been in a collision, they go to a repair facility, a body shop, and they get an estimate done. I review those estimates that the body shops do. And what sparked my interest in the collision repair industry was my older siblings and my father. I had two older brothers who were in the body shop industry, and also my father was an automotive painter. So just following their lead, following their example, I just kind of stepped right in.
Hi, I'm Maury. My current role with State Farm is an auto estimatics screener. Basically, my main goal is to help gather information needed for virtual assignments, such as photos, shop estimates, information regarding the loss, and just helping direct the assignment where it can best be handled, whether that stays virtual or switches over to an in-person assignment. I began working in the auto industry in the parts department actually and discovered Lake Washington Tech, which is a collision repair school, and went there and later was introduced to State Farm through their auto estimatics internship program.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for allowing us to meet with you all today. I'm Josh Murphy. I'm an auto estimatics team manager with State Farm. I oversee a team of auto physical damage appraisers in the state of Florida. And I've been in the industry for just a little over 20 years now, with approximately 5 years on the collision side and 16 on the insurance side. Like most, I stumbled my way into the industry. Right after high school, I attended a local college, and quickly realized after the first semester that this type of instruction just wasn't conducive to my learning style. So I started exploring options at my local vocational school, and I found myself in the collision repair program. And just I really felt at home, in this space. And 20 years in, it's just been a fun and very rewarding career.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. David, I'm going to shift gears and come to you next. So tell us about your role as a talent acquisition specialist. And then I have a couple follow-up questions for you too.
Sure. Excellent. Hi, everyone. My name is David Friedline. I'm a talent acquisition specialist at State Farm. I've been at State Farm for right at 10 years now. My primary responsibilities are to recruit for estimatics department specifically. I do recruit for a couple other departments, but my primary goals are for estimatics. So, yeah.
Thank you. So when you're looking at candidates that you're hiring for the collision repair appraiser positions, what kind of things are you looking for?
I would say first and foremost is auto repair experience and estimating experience. That has the most weight when we're looking at applicants. I would also say strong communication skills are important um, during the interview process, and when you come to work for State Farm. It's highly important. Excellent customer service skills, also valuable to State Farm. I do look for ICAR certifications and CCC1 or Mitchell estimating experience. Those are the kind of highlights that I'm looking for when I'm looking to hire somebody for estimatics.
Okay, great. And imagine you get a lot of applications when you have open positions. What kind of tips can you give students on like how to stand out during that application process?
Yeah, I would say the best and easiest way to stand out is make sure you have a really nice resume that highlights your experience, your skills, your education, certificates. A lot of times we'll have people that just have just very generic resumes and really don't sell themselves. So as you apply to State Farm, it's important to have a really good resume that highlights those things, because that moves you down the line when we're evaluating applicants.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You bet.
So, Josh, I'm coming to you next. What skills and personal qualities do you believe are essential for success in collision repair appraisal, and how can students develop these skills?
Well, that's a great question, Kate. 3 skills come to mind with this question, which are detail-oriented, communication, and collaboration, right? The requirements of today's vehicle designs are just so intricate that you must pay close attention to detail to ensure that all damage is accounted for. You must also be able to effectively communicate with internal and external business partners to ensure a smooth repair process, and that everyone involved in the repair process understands what is required to properly repair the vehicle and their specific role in the process. Lastly, repair requirements vary from model to model, and it's impossible to master each vehicle. So as you navigate through school and begin to enter the workforce, make it a point to build a network of peers you come across so that you have a group of colleagues that can assist you when dealing with a vehicle that you may not be as familiar with, so that you can ensure safe and proper repairs are performed. And there's many other skills, but those 3 really stand out to me.
Thank you. Thomas, I know you have shared that you went through several different career changes before you came to State Farm. Tell us how you continued to learn and grow in your career. And in your answer, if you can also share if there's any resources that you use or recommend to students when they consider professional development.
No problem. I actually need to piggyback off of Josh a little bit here.
Sure.
As he mentioned, building a network. One thing about the industry is you are able to build a network through the many avenues I started out in a vocational school as well, and I'm actually still close friends with some of the people I was in vocational school over 20 years ago. And we're still close friends to this day. So we still, share knowledge and talk about things, talk about issues, talk about solutions to those issues. But also it helps build a strong network. So when you have those issues or you have said problems, you have other people, other minds, outside of your everyday circle. And I started out in a vocational school about 20 years ago while I was working at a dealership as a painter's apprentice, and then moved there from a painter's apprentice on. So I've worked several different avenues inside of a body shop. I spent more time on the body shop side than the insurance sides, but with that, I was able to build a good network of people and just sort of having those resources there, having that wealth of knowledge that I have. So it does help in the industry, building that network. And just, I guess one of the main things I use is that resource of people that I have. Um, I can't think of any particular organizations, but one thing I can say is definitely keeping up with your ICAR standards, keeping up with your ICAR classes, staying in those classes. This industry is ever changing. It's a constantly evolving business, constantly evolving trade, and there's always new things, always new developments. Um, on all facets of the collision repair business. So you have to keep up with those things, and by keeping up with your ICAR classes, you'll know what are some of the newest things that are being introduced into the world. What are some of the newer metals, some of the newer substrates that we're using, some different repair methods. So it's constantly changing, and also keeping up with the on the manufacturer side of things. I was actually at a Toyota dealership, and I was able to get become a Toyota certified estimator, which did help a lot as far as education and knowledge. And you know, kind of piggybacking off of what Josh said earlier, again, it's really hard to hone in on one specific make, model, vehicle, because there's so much information on all these different vehicles. So it's important that you keep up with, as much as you can, and also have outside resources. That way, when you don't have the knowledge, you know someone else who may or who does have that knowledge. So I always think building a network is usually your strongest asset.
Excellent. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate that advice. So, Morgan and David, tell us some common mistakes or misconceptions that people have when entering this field, and how can students avoid any pitfalls?
I think a common misconception when entering this field is that you're going to have to constantly know everything and that you're just going to have it off the top of your head. Sort of like Thomas was saying, this industry is constantly evolving. Cars are changing each year, new repair methods are being discovered. And I think it's just really important to understand how to properly use your resources and connections every day and learn how to evolve with the changes.
Yeah, I would say one of the misconceptions is a lot of times when I talk to applicants and people that I'm trying to recruit to come to State Farm is that they don't think they are who we are looking for. They're exactly who we're looking for. We're looking for auto collision professionals that have experience. A lot of times people that work in body shops, they've always been in body shops for a long time, and they've never realized that there's a whole nother career path out there for them on the insurance side. So um, I definitely encourage people to look at the insurance side of it, and specifically State Farm, because you can have a wonderful career at State Farm whether you start out as an estimator, and there's so many different avenues once you get this into estimatics, whether it's select service or reinspection or management. There's just so many things you can turn your career into. The sky's the limit.
Thank you. I know when I was I've been in the company 27 years, and my first job, I worked in the property claims department. So I was helping adjust the claims and investigate the claims. And my greatest resource was a colleague on the next team over who used to work in a body shop and who was an estimator at State Farm, because I didn't know much about collision repair. I knew how to investigate liability, but when I had a claim that had kind of gone gotten complicated, he would sit down with me and go over the estimate or what was going on at the shop, or what was the conflict that we needed to resolve regarding the body repair. And he was just a huge resource to me. And we really value that skill set in many different roles at State Farm. And that just really brought back a memory for me of like he was my right hand, my phone friend, that I needed in order to see a claim through. So thank you for that. So moving forward, looking to the future, Josh, what does the future look like for careers in collision repair and appraisals? And are there any emerging trends or growth areas for students to keep an eye on?
Well, absolutely. And you heard both Thomas and Morgan hit on this, the term evolving, right? So ever evolving is a term that I believe sums up the current state and future of our industry. Today's vehicles, they're just so technologically advanced that everyone involved in the repair process must stay up to date with emerging technologies, as well as repair techniques to ensure the safety of the vehicle occupants post-repair, as well as the safety of the technician performing those repairs. I also believe that we're just beginning to scratch the surface regarding advanced driver assistance systems, which keeps us all safe. And there's a lot of room for growth on the technological side of vehicle repairs. It doesn't simply entail, hammering out a dent or replacing a part, which is, the common, uh, thought of what a body tech would be. But we need technicians that can fully understand the vehicle's advanced technologies and how to repair them in the event of a loss so that we can ensure those systems operate as intended post-repair to keep our loved ones safe. So a lot of opportunity there on the technological side of these vehicles today.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about like electric vehicles and really how complicated that is, and technology, as you said, is moving very quickly. Thank you for that. Shifting to Morgan and Thomas, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of career advice, what would it be?
It might be a bit cliche, but I would say my advice to myself would just be to not be afraid to ask questions or let the fear of making a mistake stop you from going in and trying new things. Because sometimes that mistake is all you need to learn. And it's okay to make mistakes in the beginning, and you just have to learn how to go to your team and be able to ask for help and learn from that.
And kind of to follow up with what Morgan said, it's on my mind is almost the same thing. Don't be afraid to learn. Don't be afraid to try new things. Um, Especially on the body repair side and the paint repair side, learn as much as you can. What you do is you build a strong foundation. And once you have that strong foundation, you can build upon that foundation to learn more and more. And what that does is give you a platform and give you a stance. That way, you kind of have a little more confidence in what you're doing. Building upon that, and that's something I wish I would have done when I was younger. There's a lot of things I know now at the age I'm at now. I wish I would have known when I was 20, or I wish I would have been able to experience when I was 20, or at least try when I was 20, and I would have been better off for it. So just believe in yourself and understand that, like Morgan said, it's okay to make a mistake. Mistakes can be fixed. That's literally our business model. We repair mistakes. So that's kind of, it goes hand in hand with what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So just continuing to learn, continuing to advance yourself, and don't hold yourself back. No one in the industry is going to tell you no. If you want to advance, there's always opportunity for advancement. Those doors are always open. Any opportunity I've always wanted to take, it was always there for me to go. All I had to do was just ask for it. All and show that I wanted to do it, and those doors open for me. So, those are very, very simple things to manage.
That's great, Thomas. And I'm going to piggyback on that because sometimes the opportunity finds you. And my advice would be to always say yes. There's don't be let that fear that Morgan talked about get to you. Sometimes opportunity knocks on your door, and saying yes, while you may not see all of the benefits in that moment, it's always going to be a growth opportunity for you. So don't be afraid to say yes. So we do have a question that I'm going to that we got in the chat, and I'm gonna definitely ask if Josh, as a team manager, you might want to have weigh in on this, but also Morgan and Thomas, you might have some firsthand experience. Tell us a little bit about how you manage difficult customers, because I know, I mean, you've had a loss, people are stressed out, their car is damaged, they don't have transportation, and there may be some challenging conversations that you might have to have with a customer who owns the car, or they might have had an accident with the State Farm customer, or you may be dealing with somebody at the shop. What's the best ways to manage a difficult customer?
Okay, you're exactly right. Given a customer that's had a loss, yeah, they're going to be a little upset. So we tend to come across difficult or upset customers in our line of business, but you got to understand what they just went through, right? It can be a very traumatic event for them. So, in a lot of cases, they just want to vent. So, you have to actively listen to them, let them explain their, situation and how they feel about it. Actively listen again, and be there to explain, the policy from the insurance standpoint, the repair process, and what to expect going forward. Help them understand the process. But again, that active listening, you got to let them vent. You got to listen to them to really understand what it is that may be causing them, to be a little difficult or unsettling. So listen to them. And again, explain the process in detail so they are fully aware of what to expect given the repair process.
Excellent, thank you. Thomas or Morgan or David, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I can absolutely add to that, building on some of what Josh said as well. As a collision estimator, when you're handling people's cars, you're usually dealing with, like Josh said, some very upset people. They're already inconvenienced, and you have to put yourself in their shoes. But also you have to learn to manage expectations, and also with managing those expectations, you're honest. Make sure you're honest, because sometimes you may have to deliver information to the customer that they may not necessarily want to hear. However, it's best to let them know these things up front. You get a customer's car in here, they're thinking, well, how long is my repairs going to take? It's especially in these days, the times when we have parts on back order, things of that nature, you can't really give an answer. So, you have to manage that expectation, but also let that customer know and advise them the who's, the where's, the what's, the whys of, the situation of that they could possibly be in. And usually what I find is when you do that, people normally respect what you say because you're being honest with them. You're not trying to tell them what they want to hear. You're not just, saying something to say, okay, look, it won't be that bad. Maybe 2 weeks, maybe not. Like, hey, we have a situation when I was at the shop where I had a truck that had it for a year. Just to say it not least. I had a part that was on back order. But I never had an issue with the customer just because I was honest with him up front. Some people want to ask questions and, they may not have the answers. So like Josh said, you kind of have to give them the answers, let them know what's going on. You have a customer that says, well, I want all OEM parts. Well, you know, our world doesn't work like that. But you have to let them know you have resources, you have programs available where you can possibly provide some of these things that they're asking for. Provisions, I would say you have provisions you can actually give to the customer. So just leveling with them and understanding, being understanding and putting yourselves in their shoes. And like I said, just being understanding with the customer there, that'll help tremendously with building that relationship and dealing with customers who may have issues.
Thank you. Great,
Yeah,
great advice.
I'd like to chime in just on this
Mhm.
one question here. Very good question. That is a very typical interview question at State Farm. So make note of that question and have your answer ready.
That's really good to know. We didn't prep you for that, but hey, there
No,
you go. There's a
no,
good question to be expecting
you
if you
can
ever
almost
interview.
count on that being one of your questions.
I like it. Thank you. I'm glad we hit the nail on the head with that one. So I have a question for the group, and then David, I want to come back to you and talk about State Farm careers a little bit. So for those that, Josh, Morgan, and Thomas, who have training in collision repair, what made you select to work in the insurance industry over like at a shop? Like what was that defining thing for you to make that, either make that transition or to make a different choice?
For me, it was being able to network more, right? So put yourself in a shop, right? You work at that shop. You go to that shop day in and day out. With the insurance company, particularly the auto physical damage appraiser role, you're in and out of numerous shops daily if you're in a proximity field role, right? And I just absolutely loved that aspect of this job, being able to go out and interact with numerous shops, look at numerous makes and models. You know, most shops focus solely on particular makes and models. With us on the insurance side, we have to learn and understand all makes and models that we insure. So with this role, I'm able to go out and go to shops that specialize in all makes and models so that I can really, invest in my own personal knowledge on these vehicles. But again, being selfish, it allows me to get out and network. So
With me, I actually didn't even plan on starting at insurance at all. I was not even out of college yet when I was offered my internship, and I'll try anything once. So I figured I know how to write estimates. Why not give it a shot, get a feel for it? And I just fell in love with the company and the people. Like, it's a really healthy environment as someone who's worked in a lot of like auto industry shops and just stores. It's really hard to find a healthy, happy environment in this field. And I just love the company.
Excellent.
And kind of going off of that, it was basically, for me, it was more of work-life balance. Sometimes working in the shop, you can pull some very long hours. I was an estimator for quite a long time, so it wasn't uncommon for me to work 7:30 to 7:30. So being able to pivot out of that role and working in the insurance industry, where you have set hours, I'm 8 to 4:30 here, every day. But also, kind of also what Josh said as well, is I get to expand my network. I get to deal with other shops and I get to see how things are around the country, not just in my own market area, but I get to see several other market areas and how business is handled there and how they do things outside of my industries, outside of my area. So that's also a huge, huge plus. So, and not to mention, once I got the job here at State Farm, it was, kind of like Morgan said, it was a very healthy environment. I think I've been here just over a year now, and I keep waiting, like, okay, where's the hook? And there's nothing. It's a very laid back, very, very, you show up, do your work, do your job, and that's it. There's not a whole lot that goes on to it. So it's been a great experience, a wonderful experience, and I hope to remain here as long as I can. So it's been a wonderful time.
Well, and David, I'm going to shift to you because they've sort of talked about, coming to work at State Farm, and Morgan mentioned being an intern. Could you share a little bit more about how people find information about a career at State Farm? What's that process? And if there's any links that you can oh, you already put one in the chat.
Yeah, I did.
Thank
I
you.
did. I knew you were going to come to me. So how you find out about opportunities at State Farm is to go to that website I just put in the chat, www.statefarm.com/careers. We list all of our careers on that website, as well as they all get posted to numerous career or job boards that are very familiar to people. Indeed being one of them, LinkedIn being another. Josh talked about it and others have talked about networking. It's vitally important to network in this industry. I can't tell you how many times we've hired people because somebody else knew them, whether it was in a body shop or an acquaintance. So I would highly encourage you to increase your network of people, and feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You just never know what connection's going to add up to that next career move for you.
Can you tell a little bit more about internships in this area? Like what what might an internship entail? Like, how long is it? Or even like, when did those get posted for, like, whatever that period of time is that the internship runs?
Yeah, typically the internships are posted quite a bit out before the internship actually happens. So typically internships are posted in the fall for the next summer. And Morgan, you could probably explain to the group too about your experience since you very recently went through it. But the internships typically last 8 to 12 weeks in length, for sure. Morgan, can you expand on that a
That's
little
about
bit
the
for me?
time.
Yeah,
It's about 3 months, maybe a little
yeah.
more. Mhm.
And was your internship virtual, Morgan, or was it in person?
It was completely virtual. It depends on the area you're in. As I'm in Washington, there's no offices out here, but some of my friends who were interning were in Arizona, some were in New York, and they had it kind of split 50-50, where some days they would be at home on their computer, and then other days they would go into the office and they would meet the employees and just shadow people.
Yep, and it does work out. Sometimes we do hire our interns full time, just like Morgan, and we hired I think one or two in New York this last year, and one in Illinois.
Excellent. And generally, appraiser positions could be anywhere in the country, right? Like, and some positions are virtual. Thomas, you work virtually as well, right?
Yes, I am 100% virtual. Work here from home, and I review estimates from pretty much the East Coast, but I can review estimates from anywhere from the East to the West Coast. So, yep, virtual, working from home.
Okay. And Josh, the team you supervise, are they in person and go out and do that work? You used the word proximity earlier, and I think that's what that means, right?
Correct. I have a team of local field appraisers. There's so much we can do virtually, but there's some things that we just cannot, and we need to get out and put hands on. So, depending on, your personal preference here within State Farm, you could find yourself working remotely, or you could find yourself with one of the few jobs out in the field that's customer facing, which is just a unique experience in and of itself, being able to work directly with customers and provide that remarkable assistance to them. It's so impactful.
Excellent. Well, thank you all very much. I just want to do a quick check-in with Melissa and Christy to confirm we don't have any additional questions in the chat or the Q&A.
No additional questions.
Okay. So I'm going to ask a sort of a final wrap-up question of our panelists, and we will close out our webinar today. So I'm going to ask if we could go sort of around the room here with our panelists and ask for what final words of wisdom do you have for the students aspiring to enter this field? Morgan, I'll start with you. Maybe we could go to Thomas and then Josh and then David.
Yeah, just like I said earlier, just don't be afraid to ask questions or try new things because you never know where it's going to lead you. And just don't say no. Try it. Do everything at least once.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Morgan there. Just say yes. You get opportunities, to grow and learn. Say yes to them. Open up those doors, and you never know what those doors may lead to. They can lead you down a career path that you would never imagine you would be down. And what that does is just, like I said, give you a strong foundation to build off of. So once you have that strong foundation, you can pretty much achieve anything.
Yeah. And I'll second that. It's important to say yes when an opportunity presents itself. So fully immerse yourself in the learning opportunities that you're presented with. Take full advantage of them. Never forget to network, right? Build those relationships. They will help you at some point in time, but just relax and enjoy the ride, right? It's a wonderful career. If you're showing interest in it, it can be very fruitful and very, very rewarding. So just relax, enjoy the ride, and immerse in yourself.
Yeah, and I would say I 100% agree with all of my fellow panelists. Having the courage to do something new. Yeses get you opportunities, and nos will wall you off.
Thank you very much. Morgan, David, Thomas, Josh, thank you so much for being part of our panel today. And I want to thank CREF for inviting us to be here. And thanks to all of you who tuned in live or watched the recording of today's webinar. From all of us at State Farm, we want to wish you the best as you close out the rest of your school year and wish you all the best on your future careers. Thank you for being a part of the collision repair industry. We appreciate you. Melissa, if you want to close us out or turn off the
Yes.
recording, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
having us here.
We thank you so much. Wow, that is such invaluable information. For those that are either on the call or recorded, who should they reach out to in terms of any, questions or anything? I didn't know whose email I can provide or who I should direct people to.
Melissa, you can provide my email address for any follow-ups, and we can run traffic control and get those to the right places. Do you want me to put that in the chat or?
Apps, if you could do that, that would be fantastic. And then
Okay.
if anybody has any, or I'm happy, I will also, send out a follow-up too. If anybody has any questions, I can help direct them.
Thank you.
So thank you guys again so much for your time. And again, if you are on this recording and you have other classes, I will get the link out so you can share it with other classes, and I will share it right away with our instructor network. And thank you guys again, and have a great rest of the day, everyone.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.